New year, new Roma, new formation, new look. Hard for me to say just yet. Guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for tuning in. Really excited that the game is back, that Serie A is back in total. As I'm looking around at some of the scores, it's actually an important day as Roma make up some grounds. Whether you are happy with not, I'm getting the vibe, the impression that a lot of fans are not satisfied with what they saw today from Roma. However, ultimately, Roma do grab 3 points. Of course, that's very important as they get just about neck and neck with Lazio now. Of course, Lazio have the head-to-head one, but they do leapfrog Atalanta, who stalls. And we're going to go over a couple moments here throughout this match as people come on in and enter. And of course, if you're watching this as a recording, leave a comment as well. I see everything and all the good stuff. So first, let's just take a look, I think, at the scores around the league, and that's important. We see, first of all, Napoli has Spalletti's streak comes to an end at the hands of who? Edin Dzeko, of all people. If you can believe that one. Yes, it's the Bosnian, and we'll be getting to another Bosnian, one that plays for Roma today. And so Spalletti has his first hiccup. And does this open something? I'm not so sure. I think Napoli is still very much the best team in the league. If it ended right now, you'd have to say that they are probably the deserved champions, but that's not how a 38-week season runs. Now we're in match day 16. Fiorentina Monza, Cabral with a heck of a shot, a rocket that comes off his right foot there for the guy who came over recently from the Swiss League last year. He was supposed to fill in Vlahovic's shoes, but I think it's taken him a little bit of time. However, a very high ceiling on Cabral, and he'll be an interesting striker over the next few years for Fiorentina and in Serie A. We see that win coming at the expense of Monza. Salernitana loses it to Milan. I didn't see that one. I did not watch the highlights, but I'm interested in hearing what someone thought of that game because from what I heard, from the sound of it, Salernitana did pretty well. And I know that Ochoa just came over and he's their starting keeper. And from what I saw, he had some pretty big saves. I actually did see a few of those. People are coming on in now. Hey, Paul, how are you, man? Fortunate today. Yeah, we'll be getting to that. Oh boy. Lecce pulls out a comeback win against Lazio. Good to see. I'm told that Strefezza had a heck of a goal to open up the scoring for the team from Puglia. So he's a player I really like. I think I've mentioned him once or twice. He's a little guy, plays as like an attacking mid winger, more of a kind of like a pit bull in the attacking phase. And he's actually born in Brazil, even though he has Italian roots. Elsewhere in the league, as I shift over to my big screen here, Torino ties against Verona. Sassuolo loses to Sampdoria. Sampdoria wins away. Nice for them. Juventus wins it in 90 plus 1. I think it was Milik who got on the end of that. Unbelievable luck that Juventus has sometimes. And the Allegri ball tactics are just finally starting to fall for Juventus. And they're getting not just lucky, though. You have to respect the wins and that they just keep adding 3 points, whether they win ugly or play some beautiful soccer, some beautiful football, which they're really not. The 3 points remain the same, and that's very much the same story about today, where we see Roma not playing pretty football. I don't even want to show you the statistics. It's something like 34% possession for Roma after they score, and then entirely Bologna, who almost wins it at the death. Marco, nice to see you as well, man. I saw your comment as I came in, and it's good to be back. As you notice, some things are different in the studio in my spare bedroom, and the walls are much lighter. Getting a backdrop soon. I'm also just ordered a new rig for holding my phone. Right now, this thing lights up my face. That's actually resting on my tripod handle and right under my phone, and my phone is held up by a small tripod. And I do got this new computer chair. So some things are coming together. And Paul, thank you. I see you just said sounds great. Yeah, I've got these Beat headphones, and they work pretty well. I like them. I took them from my wife. Selik HH says, was amazing. And it's good to see him get back. I saw some criticism of Selik in the sense that people look at his assists and he doesn't have any yet. But it's important to keep in mind that he has missed a lot of this season so far. It's also his introduction to being a Roma player. It is his introduction to Serie A. And he comes over from a league which is very different. The French league is open. It's not as technical. It's a bit scattered at times. And Serie A is, and Mourinho in particular, is much more disciplined in his play. I see people jumping in now. Thanks. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, definitely. After a long time. But as we round up the rest of the league, I just want to pull up these stats for you real quick. So Roma gets into 6th. I know that doesn't sound like much right now, but they were in 7th as of this morning. So one game at a time. And they're tied now with Lazio, who have 30 points. And of course, Lazio, like I said, they have the head-to-head. So they get the 5th place for now. But Inter actually jump ahead with this win over Napoli, and they've got 33. So you could say Roma is actually now just 6 points out of second. And that second spot is owned by AC Milan, who Roma play on Sunday at 2:30 New York time, or Italian time, 8:30. So that'll be something we cross our fingers for. After the game like today, when you go up against a well-oiled machine, the current champions like Milan, it's going to be a hard match, guys. They have X factors like Leao. Giroud is still an incredible striker, and France almost does it with him as their main player, as their main center forward. Without Benz, those are big boots to fill. But Giroud's pedigree is top notch. Other players, Tonali, Benacer, excellent. Like, they just have quality within this team. Maybe it's not that Milan of old, of the mid 90s, early 2000s. It's such a far cry from that. But at the same time, they're still a decent team. And it's going to take a lot from Roma to come away with any points, in my opinion, against the current champions. I think that's quite a objective statement when you just look at who this team is and what they've been able to produce and how they can grind out wins. I believe that was away to Salernitana today, right? If I'm not incorrect, let me look back at my banner. That was Milan. Where are they? Yeah, that's away, and that's a tough stadium to play in. Salernitana is a mid-table club now. They've grown quite a lot, so we'll see what happens, and I'll be doing a preview as time gets closer on that. It's only Wednesday now, so okay. Starting lineup. It's a 3-4-1-2. It's a bit of a different look. We do not have Abraham as the starting center forward. I'll be getting to comments right after I break down the starting formation here. It's the old-fashioned Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez, Rui Patricio defensive 3 with Patricio at the back there, of course. But then we see Selik enter the frame, who I just mentioned, Cristante, and then the 19-year-old Benjamin Tahirovic, Swedish player, born in Sweden, but actually Bosnian. His background, you have a lot of these because of the diaspora from Bosnia, Serbia, or not so much Serbia, but like Croatia during the war in the mid-90s. You have a lot of this throughout countries like Sweden, very much like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. His background is Bosnian. I feel like some of us are going to jump in on this conversation, looking at you, Marco. And this web of players that are now having their offspring, being born in different country, but then going back to play. Like for Switzerland, you saw some controversy with Shaqiri, and when the Swiss international team played against who the heck did they play against when the Swiss team played against Serbia? Yeah, sorry, it's been a long day. So what was I getting at? I'm losing my mind, guys. The starting lineup. Okay. So Dybala, Pellegrini, and Zaniolo. Zaniolo gets the number 9 position, the center forward spot. And that just immediately puts everyone on Twitter like, what? We haven't seen this. And what a time. Let's start 2023 out with a bang and take away the set starting forward, whether that was Belotti, who does not get the call up, Abraham, who is predicted, right? Like the odds makers would have been 90% Abraham starts this game, right? But then it's Zaniolo. Did he do a good job or a bad job? Well, if he did nothing good in your eyes, because there is some negativity towards his performance today, what he did do is he played that ball into Dybala, who goes down, and then the penalty shot goes in from Pellegrini. Of course, Roma wins this 1-0. So, back to Tahirovic. 19-year-old, will play likely for Bosnia. Big defensive midfielder here. This guy, I think he's around 6'4", perhaps even 6'5". He is the destroyer protector, probably, that is vital to Mourinho's midfields in the past. Someone that put Matic on the bench, so you know he's got quality. Comes from the Primavera for at least a number of months. He might actually be a recent introduction to the Primavera because I believe he was purchased in somewhat recent times, but is nevertheless a product and developed in-house by Roma. So let's take a look at some of these comments here. And yeah, playing on Sunday is going to be critical. If Roma is serious about getting back in the top four, and the players are, then it's going to be tough, especially at the San Siro, as Paul makes out here. SB says Smalling, Cristante, and Pellegrini were solid today. Liking Tahirovic, hope to see him more. Yeah, and I believe that we will. I remember right around mid-December reading something along the lines, like some report from Forza Roma, that Tahirovic is set to become more of a consistent player within this lineup, getting more time. And we see him bench a player that I think most of us thought was going to come onto the circuit much in the same way that Zalewski did last year, and that's Eduardo Bove. So I thought that we would see him be much more of get a prominent role. He does get some minutes in today. He draws a yellow card against the Bologna player, but it's Tahirovic who seems like he's going to be getting more and more time so far as this season progresses. Paul, I saw that comment come in. I'll be getting to that in just a few minutes. So, and then Marco said, I missed this one. What do you think? Why did Tahirovic start the game? What's going on with Kamara, Bove, Matic? And I think it's, like I said, it's because that Mourinho really likes him and he believes in him. And he fits in, as Paul says here. He's kind of like the player that we've needed for a while but haven't been able to get our hands on. Somebody who can protect the back line, win the balls in midfield. And the reason why Roma wins the game today, well, one is because of Tammy Abraham's heroics at the end. We'll get to that banner, which is somewhere around here, if I can get to it. Give me one sec. And we've got Tammy. Boom. So I just read by Jacopo Alapandri, who's a respected Roma journalist, and he wrote that Abraham's save is just as good as a goal, and it's absolutely true today because, one, that's a miraculous save, but on the top of that, that comes at 90 plus 6. That was in the last 8 seconds of the game, where that ball is destined for the back of the net, comes off a corner kick from the Bologna player, perhaps it was Orsolini who played it in, and it looks completely out of Patricio's range, upper right-hand corner of the net, and Abraham just reads it like a book. So, I mean, you got to give him full credit for that one today. Abraham, shows up in a moment where he needs to put some respect on his name and come back and give a performance, which, the effort needs to be there in order to get back into the team. Sometimes throughout this season, Abraham has been guilty of not putting in, 100%, whether it's an effort or it's a mental thing, or it was the World Cup that was weighing on his shoulders and the selection from Southgate. This was something that Abraham needed to overcome, and he comes in and makes a game-saving header, puts it away, and the game ends actually right off of that play. So on top of that, I've got another couple banners. I wanted to show this one. So we've got Volpato there on your right, and who is that on the left? I don't recognize him by face, but in the middle, that is Tahirovic. And then we've got this guy. We've got our boy, Dybala. And what's he saying there? He is thanking his fans through Instagram. Sorry, just getting the banners out of your face so you could see these. What do I got there? Okay. Banners. There we go. So on Instagram, something like 55, 56 million followers. I didn't realize that Dybala has on Instagram. So, that's a lot of very good attention for the club. If you want to look at it from a numerical point of view, the attention that you gain off of a post like that, it puts eyes on Roma. It puts attention back to the club. And this is positive PR. And Dybala is the guy who really changes the game today. It's his penalty which allows Pellegrini to convert. Was he on his A game coming back from a long World Cup break? No. I think it's going to take some time for him to get back to what he was before his injury. Also, this is the first full game he's played since that, because with Argentina, of course, he wasn't even a fringe player. He was like a sparingly used player, although he scores the second penalty kick when Argentina win the cup. But this is his first run. Give him some time. Let him get back in the groove. A lot of times with these finesse players, the way that Dybala is, they got to shake things out and start to feel it again. You know what I'm saying? I got another funny banner here. And I think you're gonna get a kick out of this one. And I'm gonna let you figure this one out. Isn't that rich? I thought that was a pretty good one. I looked at it for the first time and I was like, what does that say? In Roma's Curva Sud. I don't want to leave that up for too long, though, with my face next to it. Who knows what people might do out there. Evil. Oh, I got some comments coming in. Paul said they play good when Mourinho's off the pitch. Of course, Mourinho was suspended today. He had a red card, so he wasn't allowed to be on. And for that reason, too, there is no there's no post-match conference from Mourinho. However, there are some comments from Tahirovic as well. And he says, it was very important for me, a very important day for me. We started 2023 with a win, and we have to keep it up. For me, it was the first game as a starter, thanks to the coach who trusted me. He's got this grounded approach, and he continues here and says, I've grown a lot in recent months. My teammates and coach told me so, but I still have a lot of work ahead of me. I must learn a lot still. So he's got a good head on his shoulders, doesn't he? Thought I had a single one of him, but that's okay. Yeah, there he is. I'm going to get you an exact height of Tahirovic right now, as per Wikipedia. So, it can never be too sure of that. So 6'3". And sometimes when they translate that from meters, that gets a little shaky, because I've seen inconsistencies when it comes to that. But let's say 6'3". Okay, so as I was saying, he's this big player and can protect the defense in that way. What else did I want to get to today? Just checking this out. Tahirovic's comments, Dybala on Instagram. Cristante, I think, deserves a shout. Does he not? Cristante, look, guys, I know that he comes under a lot of criticism, and people sometimes accuse him of being a bit too casual or slow. Let me make a case for Cristante. And I'm not dying on that hill and saying he's the next, Kaká or whatever. But he was actually really good at center attacking midfield when he played for Atalanta. Let's jump back to 3 or 4 seasons ago. Guess how many goals that Cristante scored? Just guess in the comments. I want you to, and I'm going to keep on speaking. If someone gets it right, I will give you I can't give you anything, but I'll give you street credit and maybe a e-hug. Anyway, he has a really good ability, I think, at reading the play when let's take out Roma for a second, when there are attacking options that he can feed off of. When he played at Atalanta, it's actually more, Marin. I'm going to give you guys one more time. It's less than 15, but more than 10. He has an ability to run onto the ball. So when you have teams which press high up the way that Atalanta did, he had a very good playmaker on his side. It was Papu Gomez, who I think, if memory serves me right, assisted every single one of his goals. So Cristante has that mental ability to read and to make space for himself when attacking, but also score great goals. He plays defensive midfielder in the double pivot out of necessity. It is not his natural position. I'm going to blow it up here. It's 12 goals that he scored in that very good season. There we go. Volti's win record. Yeah. So those 12 goals are all in one season. They don't come out of nowhere. I encourage you to go and check out. I'm going to post Atalanta goal Cristante. I'm going to post the link here. If I could find them. Well, just YouTube it. Atalanta Cristante season, probably 2017, 2018, and look at some of those and tell me that this isn't a guy who would be a decent player in a more attacking role. Now, like I said, it comes out of necessity. Who else are you going to put there right now? Because the way that Mourinho wants his midfielders to play is like this, right? Pinching up and down. That's what a double pivot is. But they're also playing zone. So they're stretching back, watching the attackers as they come in and trying to funnel them in through the center and then play the ball up very quickly. That's the idea behind it there. What also helps, though, is players who are very athletic. I don't know if that needs to be said, and can get the ball up quickly with their own legs, like somebody like Wijnaldum. So when you talk about what Cristante could offer, I think that when he has a partner, a consistent partner, and one with a lot of legs on him, that Cristante will also be better off. So it's not just like, he stinks and there's no hope for him. But I think that with somebody a bit more athletic to complement him, he could he could be really effective. Wolsey was asleep, but he's deadly. Marco, I don't understand that. You know that. Anyway, guys, I think it was an important win. 3 points is always an important win, right? I think it's one that hopefully takes a little bit of pressure off the players, but lets them analyze where they need to improve again. And I feel a little bit redundant here because when I looked at Roma in the past few months, I saw a team that sat back, wanted to absorb as much pressure as they could, and still at times struggled. Because if I think about the derby, if we jog back, I know these are painful memories, absorbing that pressure is exactly what led to that goal, where Lazio take the lead. I think it was off an Ibanez error. But if Roma can overcome this hump and actually truly learn to suffer and get the ball up quickly as possible, then we're talking about a team, I think, which can fight for the Champions League places with Mourinho at the helm, right? I don't know how much longer Mourinho will be the coach. Hopefully, he keeps getting the players he wants and that he's happy and the players gel as good as they can. But it will not be until these players completely play the way that he wants to, but are also entering this game extremely concentrated, can play the ball out of the back, and keep mentally sharp for 90 plus 5 plus 6 minutes today, because a lot of games are won and lost in those few minutes. And that's exactly what we saw today. And it wasn't a defender who came to Roma's rescue and gave it a Mourinho masterclass from the stands, but our center striker. And it was Tammy Abraham. Let's go back to him. Guys, give it a like. Comments. Like I said, if you're watching this as a recording, comments as well. I read everything and I appreciate you guys. I also appreciate you, everyone who has been around in the past couple days. I've been doing a bunch of recordings. If you missed out the interview that I posted with Nadet is a Roma fan from Malta. Definitely check that one out. I saw a bunch of comments and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that, man. And Paul's going to Rome soon, so that's going to be a hell of a trip, man. Hope you have a really good time on that. And any that I missed, no, we got that, I think. That's enough of that. This guy should be back soon, too. Anxiously awaiting for that. Statistics, by the way, like I said, I'm not going to mention the stats, I don't think, because it's very much just a couple of shots on goal for Roma. As we've seen, this seems to be a Mourinho trademark with low possession, especially as Roma scored first and they were able to sit back. Do I think that Zaniolo will continue to play the number 9? I'm not so sure. I think that versus Milan, I think Abraham gets the start again. And I've got a good comment coming in here. Can you explain what Mourinho's way of play that we are waiting to see? I believe that Mourinho wants this type of game all the time. But for one more goal, I think, for safety, but for defenders who are concentrated for every second that they are on the pitch, who do not make mistakes, and for a midfield that distributes the ball quickly with attackers who execute in just a few short movements. To me, that is Mourinho ball. Over the his career, even if you start at Porto, he's had excellent players. There is, I want to say Deco. It's not Deco. There was a very good center attacking mid that he had in for Porto. Mourinho's Porto. I'm going to look this up real quickly before I end here. And there was a top goal scorer with Benny McCarthy, 20 goals. So having a very informed, like I said, being able to execute, with a few short movements, that's vital. The midfielder was not Pedro, not Isha. It was a very good center attacking mid that he had. If you can get me the name in the comments, I would be. Was it Deco? Oh, man, I've watched like a few of these videos from Mourinho over the years. Yeah, it was Deco. I was correct. And the one thing that I've noticed in all of these, though, is a strong midfield. Maniche, Alenichev, and Costinha were the other midfielders. And a few of the other players, we wouldn't even... They weren't legends, but what they did do was they fought hard, they clicked, they were able to absorb and counter-attack quickly. To me, that is the classic Mourinho ball that we still haven't been able to see. Are we still stuck in 2005? Over the Mourinho tenures at Real Madrid and at Chelsea, we've seen him transition from a 4-3-3, 4-2-3 when we've seen these tweaks. Is he still evolving? I think with his formations he is. I think he very much plays to his strengths or sees the personnel that he has and then applies a formation based on it. But the philosophy is the same. And that's not going to change. You're never going to see Mourinho go out and play all attacking football. It's not going to be the way that Spalletti does or Ten Hag does. It's just not, it's not going to happen. So is it stuck? It's old-fashioned, I think. That's one word you could use for it. But that doesn't mean that it's not efficient. However, it is only efficient when you don't make mistakes. And that's what Mourinho ball is predicated on. The fact that your players cannot make mistakes and they win 1 or 2-0 or 2-1 at most. That's exactly what he's looking for. And he's looking to the Primavera. We see that with guys like Tahirovic, with Bove getting minutes today, with Volpato, Zalewski. And I think that is good for Roma long term. However, we need the results right now. And if a club, which if you looked at Thiago Pinto's press conference, if there is a club that needs financial, not assistance, needs financial health right now, it is Roma. And one way you get that is by getting back into the top 4. Because making the Champions League and not making the Champions League is so significant when it comes down to your media rights. Even if you get into like the group stages of the Champions League, you make something like 50 million euros. What does that do to a balance sheet like Roma's, where they continue to lose money, where the amortization of big transfers still affects the club? So you see, and not to get off on a little bit more of a tangent here, when you see and analyze what Thiago Pinto is saying here, he's saying that Roma cannot spend big until other players go, because this isn't a team that can take risks like the Cities and the Manchester Uniteds can, so to speak. So it's like a maze, or maybe a maze isn't the right word, but it's like jumping through hoops in order to make a top 4 team with a top 8 budget, really, because of these financial constraints, because FFP has Roma by the coglioni. So it's a tough one, man. Matt says, mention that Mourinho ball is predicated on high quality attacking players. Do you think we have that outside of Dybala? Does he need to instill more offensive tactics? I'm very interested to see what Solbakken was offered. Solbakken was not called up today because he hasn't spent enough time with the team yet. But when I look at the way that he played against Roma, I think that he could be that player. Direct, doesn't think too much, goes immediately to goal, looks for the shot. I think that could be one of these sleeper signings by Mourinho. At least I hope so, right? Like, you have to hope that this could be. He's definitely a player that Mourinho specifically requested. I remember the two of them speaking after they played. So, instilling more offensive tactics, I think that he has his offensive tactics, and those are 3-4 passes max, get the ball into the back of the net, use that with dynamic attacking players. So I'm hoping to answer your question there. El Shaarawy is not it. As he's gotten older, he's much more rigid, less agile in front of goal. What you do see, though, is he's putting in good shifts at the wingback position, so he can still contribute with his width in that setup. Pellegrini, to me, is always a bit more of a withdrawn attacker. In the final third, though, if I look at the Tammy of last year, Tammy, Dybala, Solbakken, I'm hoping that those three can be a deadly trident. And I don't think that it's over either. If you added a guy like Memphis Depay, now you're talking. Now you're talking big business. Where does Belotti fit in? I don't know. Short answer, I don't know. And it's going to take some real strength from him, I think, inside of Belotti to step up and overcome the problems that he's had, because he hasn't really had great seasons for a few years now. So I don't know what happens to him. Marco says, why do you get 7 attackers and most of them don't play? I think that there were other plans for Eldar Shomurodov. I think that Mourinho wanted him to be what I think Solbakken has the bigger ceiling and higher chance to be, is what I'm imagining. Belotti, I think, was seen as the vice number 9 to Abraham. I think we all thought that. Hasn't panned out. So what you're left with is like a lot of these different options, and yet when Dybala goes down, none of them work. So it's like you need him. You need that number 10. So we'll see what happens now. Cross your fingers. Hopefully Dybala stays fit. Maybe some, like I said, Depay. Perhaps he enters the frame. I don't know. Maybe he comes on a season-long loan. Like I said, Roma's transfer strategy is limited because of what is allowed under FFP. On another note, if you saw, Aubers Resorts, Roma signed a sponsorship with them, and that'll be on the lower half of the jerseys. That is the Friedkin's hotel group, just so you caught that one. SB says, look at the midfielders he's had in the past, like Makelele, Essien, Fabregas, Matic, Alonso, Khedira. Yeah. those are some elite center mids you're talking about there, man. And yeah, like if you add one or two of those guys like in this team, you redimension it. It just is redimension a word. You give it so many different angles, such a higher quality, right? I think that hopefully Wijnaldum's re-entry really helps Cristante. And I don't know if that's done either. We are in the transfer window. The transfer window started 3 days ago. So let's see what happens now. Forza Roma, yes. Dai Roma, hope so. And I will be getting a Milan preview. Probably today's Wednesday. Tomorrow I'm gonna chill, probably, maybe cook, go get some food, maybe make like a steak or something. And then Friday I'll do a little preview. That'll be fun. Paul says, what's the hotel group? That's Auberge, Auberge, I believe. Yes, King Cristante. He's significantly better than Michael Essien, right? One of the best midfielders of his generation. Fabregas, who's now chilling in Lake Como. I'm a little jealous of Fabregas. Yeah, Holstens. Paul and I get ice cream at the same place, if you didn't know. Guys, keep the comments coming in. I'll stay on as long as people are chilling here. We got over 10 now. It's nice to see. We're 35 minutes in. Lord Cristante. Yeah. Cristante's 12 goals. Don't sleep on that. But while we're chatting, I'm going to try to get Stagione. I'm going to try to get this video over to you. I gol di Cristante. Well, check out, maybe not the full season, but I'm going to send you what he did against Juventus And this was the 2017-18 season. So post that for you in the comments right now. And that one's worth checking out, guys. I'm gonna walk you through them if you want. Pull them up right now as you're watching. If you're not on a phone, if you're on a desktop like me, go. I mean, that is that Cristante who scores the first. That's a ridiculous header. Look at that right here. And who crosses that in? It has to be Papu, right? Yeah, that's Papu, number 10. I mean, that's a bullet. That doesn't even look like the same player. Cristante there. Or was that Petagna? It's one or the other. No, it's Cristante. Yeah, for sure. And that came to tie the game for Atalanta against Juventus. Jeez. He crucified Buffon on that one. Buffon. Oh. Kind of miss Buffon in a weird way. In like a, way that a person who's kidnapped misses the person who kidnapped them. Stockholm Syndrome. Anyway, keep your eyes peeled on the news. Be back. Let me know what's going on in your life. Reach me on Twitter if you need anything urgent, of course. If you need my recipe for my pasta fagioli or pasta fagioli, if you're from southern Italy, let me know. Because this stuff came out sweet, nice and spicy. Ooh, yeah. I'll give that recipe over to you. Just let me know. Maybe I'll do like a little cooking show one of these days if I could figure out all the camera angles and stuff like that. Guys, peace. We'll talk soon. Thanks for joining. Ciao.